Hey everyone, welcome to Lauren De Laguna. Thank you so much for joining us. I am honored to be joined by Rogue Nation. I've gone on his channel before and briefly spoke to him. I think he's very smart. I understand that a lot of the people who watch him very much dislike me, and according to my comments, there's some animosity. But I think that's all a bunch of YouTube drama nonsense. I think if we understand that we can have difference of opinions and come together, understanding that, and try to just understand one another, that will make life so much better for everybody. So I'm going to bring him on and let's welcome him. Hey, Rogue Nation. How are you today?
Good. How are you tonight, ma'am?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. And thank you, Paul Crispy, for setting this up. How do you know Paul?
Just through the internet. He and I used to talk a lot. He had his show. I would pop in and talk on his live streams. Stuff like that. He was probably one of the more relatable, I guess you could say, anti-auditor people that I met. So um, we had a good time. We had fun. So
So you felt like he was anti-auditor, but you would classify yourself as an auditor, but you guys still
yeah,
got along.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. I do want to get into auditing, but first, can you tell me a little bit about your background and your upbringing and everything like that? Where are you from originally?
I'm originally from Orlando, Florida. I was born
Okay.
here. I was raised for a good part of my life up by Chicago, Gary, Indiana, that area, Northwest Indiana, Chicago. I spent some time in Phoenix, Seattle, San Francisco. I lived in all those places as well.
Wow, that's a kind of all over the map, isn't it?
hmm
Where was your favorite place?
Florida. I mean,
Yeah.
California is probably the best place, but with the cost of living and the amount of crazy people that live there and all the restrictions, I mean, it's a no-brainer. Florida's you know the best for me, price wise and stuff. That we're able to do when we're off work, because you got to work everywhere you go. I mean, so to me, what makes life better is what you can do after you get off work. So there's lots of stuff to do down here. I'm not restricted by cold weather. I can go out 9 months out of the year and go to state parks or do whatever. My family likes to go to the freshwater springs down here during the summer. So yeah, we love it.
Yeah, I mean, I love going outdoors too. You camp with your family?
Yeah, camping. We haven't done that in a while, but hopefully we'll pick that up come this fall or this spring coming up. Um, but yeah, we just enjoy nature. We don't really care a lot for the theme parks and stuff that they have down here. We've gone a couple times. Obviously, I got two little girls, so they've gone to Disney and Animal Kingdom and Universal and stuff like that. But um, it's just a money sucker. Those things are. I'll let the
Yeah.
tourists go in there.
Yeah, they're money pits, they're tourist traps. Nature's amazing, wonderful, a lot cheaper too. I mean, you still have to pay to go to national parks, which kind of suck. But
Yeah, it's like what I already pay for them, right? Like that's part of my taxes is the upkeep of national parks, and then you got to pay when you go in. It's the same thing we find with public record requests. We already bought all the paper and the ink and the photocopier and the CDs and you know, but yet when
right,
we go to get it, we still got to pay more.
yeah.
Makes no sense to me, but whatever.
So yeah, so I understand your frustration with the government, and I could see the little things like that. Like that's a perfect example. The government claiming we own this, and therefore you have to pay us, even though we pay the government to maintain it. So, what got you into auditing?
A gentleman by the name of Jeff Gray and an incident by the name of the Dozier School for Boys, where state employees killed and raped, murdered 80 young boys. over the course of numerous years. So logically, when you think about situations and you have a situation where there's a state-run institution that was overseen by these hardworking state employees,
What was the
and
name of that institution again?
Dozier, Dozier, Dozier School for Boys. It was in Marianna, Florida. Um, and you just Google that, and you'll have more than enough information than you'll ever need on it. It's a disgusting time, I think. But when you realize that this place was ran by state employees that we're supposed to trust and are hardworking, and then you realize that they were audited by other state employees, right? Because it's a juvenile facility, and other state employees come there to see the conditions and the see what's going on and that kind of stuff. Because that's the checks and balances that everybody raves about. That they tell me I don't need to go out and audit. We've got checks and balances already. So when you realize that that also failed and all these young boys died, then the only logical conclusion that you could be left with is that the state is overwhelmed and it needs the citizens to now come out and help watch over what they're doing because
Were
they,
you
they can't seem to
involved?
be able to.
Were you involved in uncovering anything there, or was that story just so egregious that it inspired you to investigate the government more?
It was just so egregious. I didn't, it was discovered, I think a while back, but it the fact that this happened was allowed to happen because this isn't something that it wasn't $50 that accidentally slipped out of your pocket on the way to deposit the funds. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's multiple guards here at this facility. There's teachers, there's administrators, and all of a sudden, oh, yeah, where's that boy at? Oh, who knows? Nobody knows. It's a secure facility. Nobody knows where this boy is. And that to happen 80 different times. I mean, come
Wow.
on. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, this is on par with one of the worst serial killers in America. And
Right. And I hadn't heard of this case. I'm curious if the chat had heard of this case. If you had, please say something. If you hadn't, say something because that's egregious. You're saying 80 young boys died. And I don't know, 2011, I would have been a junior in high school. I don't remember this story being national news that was repetitive for months, like many school shootings or other egregious crimes are.
no, no, absolutely not. And again, no one was ever prosecuted for this crime. So, I mean, so not only did it show me that the state needs help watching over its employees because they're obviously taxed and they don't have enough people, enough manpower to do a good job. Killing and losing 80 kids, not a good job, right? So if you
Right.
don't have enough manpower to do a good job, then as a citizen, I feel it's a civic duty for me to step up and help to make sure that our employees, the states, and by extension, the constituting members of each state, which would be us, we're all body or members of the body politic, body corporate. So as members, it's our duty to help out, and so that's what I do. I go and I help out, and I make sure these people are doing what they should be doing, treating citizens how they should be being treated, and um, offering corrective measures and looking into credit card receipts and stuff like that to see where the money's going. We didn't get. I know people will probably put the debt at like $30 trillion, but when you add in all the unfunded liabilities like Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, we're looking at 150 to 200 trillion dollars in debt. And we didn't get there by watching the government. We got there by people sitting on the couch watching TV and not
Mm.
questioning the government. That's how we got $200 trillion in debt. So, I mean, people can point the finger and say what I'm doing is bad, but the thing about it is I've got the approval of the founders, okay? Because the founders wanted exactly what I'm doing. They wanted me to take the public officials' conduct and display it for the rest of the citizens so they could see who these people are that are making decisions in their life, because it's the government that runs our lives, whether people want to believe it or not.
Yeah.
The government
Mhm.
says, and you will frickin' do. That's the bottom line.
We learned that during COVID. Yes.
Yes. So, um, who are these people? Are they qualified to be in these positions? Are they, we all went to school, right? And we all knew
Most
people
of
that
us.
were bullies and people that were just downhearted and mean. And are these people the ones that are in government? How do we know? Nobody knows who's in their local government. They might know who they voted for mayor, but the elected positions are like literally 1/10 of the government, if not less. You don't
Yeah.
know anybody working in government. You know what I mean?
Like this small bureaucracy that works there. Like,
Right. The people
yeah.
that don't change, the people that are there for 30 and 40 years, because it's damn near impossible to get fired because they've got
True.
unions and their bosses really don't care, and
And
you
you
know
have
what I mean?
vested rights. You gain vested rights when you gain employment by the government. That makes it more difficult to get fired than at a private area. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. I mean, I've worked in the private sector my whole life, as again with the public, and I damn well better have a smile on my face no matter how the public treats me. And I've had people say all kinds of things. I mean, you can imagine when people get drunk. I've had all kinds of cursing and hearsing and hollering and stuff thrown, and especially when you cut
Oh
people
gosh.
off. Yeah, when you cut people off, you're like, sorry, buddy, you've already had enough to drink. Oh no, now you're gonna get it. You know what I mean? Because I'm not drunk. So yeah, if
Yeah.
any time I would have handled that in the way that a lot of these people handle me when I just come in there with a camera, then I would have been out the door a long time ago. So I mean, it's nice that they got this cushy job. It's nice that there's this myth that these people are hardworking, and some of them possibly are, but I mean, for the majority, they don't have to be. Okay, they're not on a, a roofer's type pay schedule where they got to do so many foot an hour to get paid. You know what I
Right.
mean? They come into work and they get paid regardless of if they do any
Mm-hmm.
work or not. You know what I mean? And
Yes,
if
I
they
do know.
don't do work, all of a sudden, oh, it's just red tape, and we all got used to it. It's just red
Right.
tape. Oh, it's going to take 2 weeks to get that email to you. Why your email doesn't work instantaneous like the rest of us? You know what I mean? Like,
Their email has to be hand delivered via snail
right,
mail.
right. So, I mean, I understand people don't like what I do, and quite frankly, I don't care.
Can
You know
you
what I mean?
explain what it looks like when you're auditing a place? What exactly are you doing? And what kind of places are you auditing?
I audit every government building. It doesn't matter what it is, and what it looks like is when I started doing this, I wanted to do it in a couple of steps, right? And part of the reason I got into it was because I couldn't get no answers out of my government, right? I would go to the government for answers, and I could never get any answers out of these people. Um, and so I saw, Jeff Gray and a couple others, another guy down here named Joel Chandler, who is a big public records request guy. He's got a lot of case law down here. Um, I saw him on video and go in with the cameras, and they were getting their questions answered,
Hmm.
and they were, getting the information that they wanted. And granted, the government didn't like it, but it is the law, and especially here in Florida, we have the best open records law in the country. Anybody could get records of Florida, and almost everything's a public record. You know,
Yeah.
um, so um,
Well, what was the first building that you audited, and what answers were you looking for when you went into that building?
it was the Ocala City Hall, because I live close to Ocala, and again, part of my process was not really looking for answers right off the bat, nor corruption. because again, to walk into a building with your camera, and obviously where the public can see you, nobody's going to be having their hand in the till. You know what I mean? No one's going to be doing something that they shouldn't be doing. Hopefully, I mean, God knows it does happen, but the majority of the time it does not happen. So part one of me auditing was to get people acclimated to the camera, right? So when I started down here in Florida, to go into a public building with a camera, you were almost guaranteed you'd get trespassed, maybe arrested. Now, 3, 4 years go by. I've done almost every public building in Florida, a lot, multiple times, and now citizens, not just me, but citizens can go into these buildings with cameras, ask their questions, get the responses, on video, and make sure they're treated in a professional manner. Um, I mean, I like to tell people that I I use Google Maps when I go out, and there's a little thing where you can put like little dots on the map where you want to go. And if you look at my community tab, I posted a picture of my map, and you
We
can
can
see it.
bring up anything you want to bring up too. We have somebody named Henry that's helping out. So if you want Henry to bring up anything, just tell Henry, pull up this article, pull up my community page, whatever, and he'll work on that.
Yeah, if you could, on my community page, you could see it. It's a picture of the map of the U.S. with my pins on there or whatever. But when I'm going and looking at these places and I'm finding the buildings I want to go to, I'm always reading the reviews, right? So, for example, I do post offices, and a lot of people say, "Oh, there's nothing good in post offices. You're not exposing anything, yada yada yada." But if like when they see my pens, they probably won't see them detailed enough to see the locations. But um, when they see that and they go to where I've gone, they'll notice that the post offices I go to are not the ones that are getting the 4 and the 5 star ratings from the customers. They're the ones that are down there at 1.7, 1.8, with a list of reviews this long of people talking about not getting my mail, shitty service, rude customer service, this and that. Um, and that's one of my pet peeves again because I work in the private field. So there, yeah, there you go, there you have it. So
Those are all places that you've already been to?
yes,
Wow.
yep, and there's the whole U.S. And this is just since the start of COVID. I've been doing this,
Wow.
so a couple of years. So I go to a lot of places, um, and as you can see there, almost the whole Southeast is covered there. I've made it
Yeah.
up into North Carolina. I recently made it up into Tennessee. I'm moving over left to Mississippi. I'm almost done with South Carolina, Georgia, and Alabama. But I do have some spots there that I have to fill in.
How are you funding your travels?
Just the money I make. Like I said, I work a regular job, service industry. I won't say where, but I've been with them 16 years, and I've worked with them a couple days a month. Just because, again, I've worked with them for 16 years. So I don't want to say preferential treatment, but my boss loves me because I'm a hard worker. I've always been a hard worker.
Yeah.
Before I started doing YouTube, I was working 2 jobs, every day for multiple years. My wife hasn't worked in 17 years. We've got 2 daughters, 15 and 10. My wife's a homeschool and stay at home wife. So
I love that.
I've always been a hard worker. Been working since I was 16, 2 and 3 jobs. Um, so it's never been a thing for me. But as YouTube has taken over more time, I've had to push back that job and my side business, which again is taking and staffing weddings and one-off events, which pays great money. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I make way more money staffing weddings and working at my service job than I probably ever could make at YouTube
Oh,
because
really?
oh yeah, because the way I do the staffing, so it's a beautiful business model. So basically, I bid on jobs. People contact me. I bid on jobs, and I can bid on jobs anywhere in the country. And then I just hire people to work the jobs for me, right? So, but I don't hire them. They're independent contractors.
Hmm.
Okay. I don't even pay them. The client pays them at the event, cash. That's all theirs. My money comes in the form of a deposit. Okay. I charge $40 an hour per staff member. Okay. So if I've got 10 staff members working for me on a day, it's
400.
400 bucks an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I've been doing it for years. I do it all over the country. I mean, I could definitely make way, 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 way more money than I ever could on YouTube. YouTube, I'm lucky to make 100 bucks a day. You
So
know,
then you're literally just doing this for the purpose of holding your government accountable, being able to feel like as a citizen own the government buildings that you paid for with your tax dollars.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And what was his name? Henry.
Henry's my producer, yeah. Hmm.
Okay, yeah. Ask Henry to pull up my Facebook page, Classic Wait Staff.
Okay. Yeah. So
Classic Wait Staff.
okay, please do that, Henry. Facebook page, classic wait staff. That would be great. Um, so you just started doing the auditing during COVID.
No, a little bit before COVID. I started in 2018. I started for a little bit, and then my wife came up. Yep, that's me. And you can go through and you can look and you can see. I've had events in Chicago, Seattle, Florida. I got pictures. I haven't updated this since COVID started because COVID pretty much killed that. Nobody wanted
Right.
to get married, that sort of thing. But yeah, ever since COVID's been gone down, it's picking back up now. But I mean, I live in Florida. It's a ton of disposable income down here. I live, as a matter of fact, I myself live right by the Villages, okay, which is like the world's largest retirement community. There's nothing but disposable income up there, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just a ton of money down here as far as my business goes, because I mean, people that don't even live in Florida fly down here to get married. So I get a ton of business down here. So yeah, it's definitely never been about the money for me. I can definitely guarantee you that. Although the money, is decent. I'm glad that my advertising on my videos can pay me back some of the money I'm losing because hey, I do have a family to support. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I love
Absolutely.
I love what I do as far as my journalism activism goes, but I mean, there's no comparison to me taking care of my family or me, helping educate people on their rights. I mean, it's not even a toss up. So I mean, if it ever comes to the point where I can't take care of my family through doing this, then I'll switch back over a little bit more
Yeah.
to doing my side business. Doesn't mean I'll ever quit doing my activism journalism. Just means I won't have as much time, or maybe I won't be able to go out of state as often. Because a lot of places auditors won't go to or haven't gone to, and there's no auditors in the state. Like Mississippi, there's very few people in there, and
Hmm.
hardly any auditors want to go there. Louisiana, no auditor wants to go to Louisiana.
Do you know
That's
why?
the old Napoleonic code. They're all scared of it. They think, this is the one state that's, kind of different in the law as far as that goes. But I mean, it's federal rights we're talking about, and they're in the Fifth Circuit with Turner v. Driver. But again, a lot of people get caught up on the case law, but you don't even need the case law for what we're doing because again, the intent of the free press is to watch over our government. There need to be no
Yeah.
case law saying, "Oh, you have a right to watch over your government." There doesn't need to be any case law like that. It may be in China or North
Okay. I
Korea.
do have a couple of questions though about the law.
Mhm.
So there are government buildings, but are all government buildings open to the public?
No, absolutely not. Even though every piece of property the government owns is public property, there is a lot of restricted access property. Military bases, the White House, the Pentagon, the CIA. I mean, even some of your local offices, some of your local county offices are administration only, and they don't have a public lobby. They don't interact with the public at all.
So
That,
you
that
don't go in and try to like film those places.
no, you wouldn't be allowed. I mean, that would be an arrest that you would lose, and you would lose the case to. I mean, That is pretty clear. I have a hard enough time going into places I know I'm allowed to go into. You know what I mean? Rather than try to go into places that I definitely know I'm not allowed to go into, like
Right.
courthouses. I'll go in the courthouse. They tell me they have a judge's order. Turn around and say, "See you later, dude." You know.
Right. Right. That makes sense. That makes sense. So, are there is there a sliding scale, or is it open to the public and then not open to the public? Or is there a sliding scale where some buildings are limited purpose, such as if you have a press pass, you're allowed in the building, or if you're
I
here
mean,
for a limited purpose?
right. I've never seen that. And as far as the case law and what's common legal knowledge is that anywhere the public has a right to access, the press has a right to access, because otherwise that wouldn't even make logical sense, right? Because if the citizens could gather more information about what the government is doing, why do we need the press?
But there's certain places that the press can go that citizens can't, correct?
If they have a press pass, and if there's
Mm.
some kind of facility set up for that, like the White House, they have press conferences. You get your press pass, you can go into the press conference room. Citizens can't go in there. Absolutely. Maybe backstage for a concert or a sporting event. Stuff like that. But again, those places aren't open generally to the public, so that kind of stuff could be restricted in access, just like, okay, say at the health department. Okay, I love to do health departments. They have a public lobby. As soon as you walk in, there's chairs, there's public information sitting around, but they have doors that they have to call people to come back behind those doors. Okay. And even though it's the public that they're calling back there, that's still restricted, right?
Mhm.
So I wouldn't be allowed to go back there.
Okay. So have you, when you've gone into these types of facilities before, have you been told like, hey, you're in a restricted place, and then you disagreed? Like,
If I know it's not a restricted place, or if I know that there hasn't been due notice that it's restricted, and not just somebody's word, because I mean, these people will tell you everything and anything. I mean, I've heard so many people so confidently tell me that I couldn't record in a building that it just makes my head spin. You know what I mean? Like, so I judge on what my knowledge is and where I'm comfortable. If I feel that um I might be unsure of where I'm at, then I'll back out. You know what I mean? I'm not there to cause trouble, even though a lot of people think I'm there to cause trouble. I'm not really there to cause trouble. I have a lot of passes um, on my 360 audit channel, as well as my Rogue Nation channel. But the only difference in my audits and my passes and my fails are the way the people react to the camera and me.
but there
But
are certain places where the public is allowed that cameras aren't allowed, or no. Like for instance, like a federal courthouse, the public is allowed into the federal courthouse, but they're not allowed to film.
I mean, you can film if you make that request. I filmed in courthouses before that don't allow cameras. In Florida, it's judicial rule 2.451, I believe, or I'm not exactly sure. But there's a judicial rule that because the courts are open to the public, that unless the judge can show that there would be a detriment to the defendant's case, then they have to allow you in. That's in Florida. I'm sure other states have
Is that in every court or just state courts?
just state courts. That's a Supreme Court, Florida Supreme Court rule for their system. Now, the federal district courts here, probably, I haven't even looked into that. I've just always assumed that they were off limits because most federal courthouses are. But again, you can still record in those if you go through the proper channels. Now, the Supreme Court has said specifically that because of the nature of the business of courts, they're a different thing, and the presiding judges can't make rules against that. And that's just something that we have to live with. I think all courts should be open unless there's a child victim or victim like a sex crime victim or something like that, I wouldn't be okay with that. But for all the other courts, I mean, they should definitely be open to the public so the public can see, what's exactly going on in these situations. I mean, how many people realize that, rapists and murderers are getting 6 years and pot growers are getting 50 years? Not a lot of people.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, I understand. Um, have you read into like the case law as to why they won't allow cameras in a federal court?
well, there was an incident in the Appalachian Mountains when a family that was known for criminal activity came in and shot up the place, killed the judge, killed the prosecutor. I mean, literally just tore it down. So, I mean, there's obviously good reasons, uh, you, for security and stuff at courthouses, and again, the crimes um, that are being displayed there, sexual crimes or children against children crimes. But I've never seen any specific case laws explaining the exact reasons, or if there was an exact reason, per se for that. And I guess that would have to be a Supreme Court case. Um,
I think I remember reading a treatise on the matter regarding several judges debating uh, the benefits and also the potential pitfalls of having cameras in the courtroom. But essentially, they decided on a federal level not to allow cameras in the courtroom. Um, and then a lot of the times, I feel like when you watch cases on TV, the judge will mention once or twice, I somewhat regret allowing cameras in this courtroom. I'm pretty sure the Rittenhouse judge said that. I'll read that comment in a second. I'm pretty sure Daryl Brooks judge said that. Then simultaneously, you had Maxine, um, I'm blanking on her name, but the Epstein woman. And it almost seems like there was no accountability because there was no cameras in that courtroom. So none of those pedophiles that she pimped out or helped out were prosecuted. Okay. If it is legal to film in a certain place, but some of the public in said place don't want to be filmed while there, if you can continue film, can you get in trouble? If you continue to film, can you get in trouble? You want to answer that one?
yeah, the answer is absolutely not. And you can test this out yourself to make sure what I'm saying is true, because I know nobody believes me. So you can test this out yourself by looking at any state you want, their eavesdrop, their wiretap statute. Okay. And what you will find there is that you can't be convicted of wiretapping, eavesdropping, if there's no expectation of privacy in the area that you are in. Okay. So, I mean, point blank, straight up, right out the box, I'm going to tell you folks how it is. I can go anywhere that the public can go with spy camera glasses and record everything you say and everything you do, and it's freaking legal. Okay. The fact that I'm nice about it and have a big ass camera here doesn't make a difference.
I think that's United States v. Katz, Katz.
Yep.
Is he had a conversation in a phone booth, and apparently there was no expectation of privacy in there. Or maybe there was, but either way, if there's not an expectation, that was the ruling. If there wasn't an expectation of privacy, then
Right. If
there's
somebody can overhear
no right
you,
to it.
there was I don't know if the website's up. Maybe Henry can find it if it is, but there used to be a website called Overheard in New York. But it was overheardny, I believe, .com or something like that. But and basically what it was is a website where people that lived in New York would go on the website and they would type up a story of stuff that they overheard while on the subway, or while walking down the street, and it was the most hilarious stuff. There you go, Overheard in New York. So if people are close enough that they can hear you, you have no expectation of privacy, my friend. Bottom line.
All right, let's read one. Skater, come on, hang out. Murray Hill looking PR type chick. F you, you're a F word. You would rather hang out with your loser friends than this effing rat hole. I would have effed you if you just came to Manhattan, but skater, come on, hang, it'll be cool. Murray Hill looking PR type chick. Oh, F this. I'm taking a cab, have fun sucking your buddy's C word, you A word. Skater, after watching her leave. Effing B words. Pauses and asks perfect stranger, hey, can I buy a cigarette from you? Okay. I get the vibe. I get the vibe.
Yeah. So again, this is stuff that just people overheard other people saying in public, and of course, this website's been God. It's probably been 10 years since I seen that website. That website's been around forever. So I mean, all this stuff just justifies exactly what I'm saying. There's no privacy in public. I mean, it doesn't even make sense. It doesn't even make sense to even think about it. You know what I mean? Like, even when I'm at home and I have my curtains open and there's a sidewalk in front of my house, people can look in. You know what I mean? Like, they can see in.
I
You know,
have some.
I shouldn't be dancing around naked. You know what I mean? Like, maybe I should close my curtains and then dance around naked. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes, I know exactly what you mean. I have an interesting case about that. Do you have Hulu?
I do.
Did you watch, there's the Pharma Bro documentary?
No, I did not see that.
Well, I'm briefly in it. And at one point, they go to my neighbor's house, and alongside my neighbor's house are a bunch of pictures of me flipping off the camera. And the documentary doesn't explain why, but essentially what had happened is my neighbor got into a dispute with one of my roommates. And so, in retaliation, they built a fence, put a camera facing our door, and then whenever we had any boy come over, specifically my roommates, they would take pictures of the boys and accuse them of being pedophiles and then post the pictures onto their fence. So I started flipping off the camera, and then they started posting pictures of me. So I called the cops and I was like, hey, are they allowed to do this? And the cop was like, yup, you're in public. As soon as you step outside of your house, they have every right to have that camera in public, and then that fence is their property. They have every right to post pictures, which is their property, onto their fence, which is also their property. So you're effed, and that is in the documentary. So if you watch that documentary, you'll see a bunch of pictures of me flipping off a camera. So yes, your point is valid, and I have lived experience. If there was an expectation of privacy in public, you couldn't record your children's ball game. Very good point. Yeah. So, have you discovered any corruption on your journey with auditing?
Oh yeah.
So, tell me about your biggest, juiciest corruption story.
Well, the one that I'm working on now involves developers up in the Panhandle, and city council members. It's about they estimate it at about $500 million worth of fraud going on up there. So that's one I'm working on now. We're working
How
on.
did you discover that? How did you go about piecing together that finding?
Well, there's a gentleman that lives up there, and he's lived up there his whole life. He did about 30 years in the service, and he's back at home. And he's like I said, he's lived there his whole life. It's his hometown, and he put together a lot of the information, and they aren't getting it out enough. He's got a small YouTube channel. It's the Alan Osborne Show. If Henry wants to look that up real quick.
Okay.
And you can bring that up and see. It's a small YouTube channel, but the guy's hilarious. And I was up there in Walton County, and we kind of reached out and got in touch with each other. And a couple other people that lived up in the area called me up. A young lady, and I call her young, but she's probably middle aged. But her and her husband moved from England over to the Walton County area, and she bought, I think it's like 40 acres,
Oh, wow.
and she put a pavilion out there where they sell food and alcohol and they do live music. Well, right down the road from her is a restaurant, right? And so as her business grew, the restaurant's business shrunk. Okay.
Oh,
The restaurant's owned by a county commissioner there.
Alan Osborne show is on screen.
Yep. Yep. So yeah, if you ever get a chance, like I said, it's a small channel, but I mean, he knows all the guys. He grew up with everybody there, and he knows all the plays. I mean, he really lays it out, and it's funny too because he's like, you know what? If anything I said was a lie, they'd be suing me. And as you will see, he's got a whole backlog of videos, but he calls out okay. See the guy right there on the left with the red shirt and the white hat?
Yeah.
That's the county attorney. His name's Clay Atkinson. The
Okay.
sheriff is named Ken Atkinson, right? And yeah, just listen to him. Listen to his accent. He's funny, man.
September 2022. And we're back. We're here to talk politics in the panhandle. That's right. We're going to get after it. We're all going to get fired up. No.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, whenever you get a chance, just watch some of his stuff. You'll come away laughing. He's a great guy. But back to the lady who's also a friend of his. So as her business is growing and the restaurants is shrinking, and it happens to be owned by a county commissioner, she is visited by code enforcement in 4 years, 200 to 250 times. All right. Her property is visited by code enforcement.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and
Wow.
it gets so much more worse than that. Clay Atkinson, the guy, the county attorney, he owns some property there in Walton County. There was no road that went by his property. So the first road that Walton County built, first new road, not repaving old roads, the first new road that Walton County put down in 30 years goes right by his properties. Okay. So it raised his property value
Right.
immensely. Guess what the name of the road is?
After him.
Atkinson Road.
Yeah.
How blatant? How blatant can you be?
That's terrible.
Right? Listen to Alan's show. He'll have you rolling. He's got information on the county commissioner running down the hallway in the hotel with a naked county employee chick. Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, he busts it all out. Cocaine, pills. He tells you the whole story about these guys.
How does he catch this?
Because there's insiders that want to get this information out, and they've been giving it to him, and he's been passing along to me and other people through his YouTube channel. But I've actually got the documents. He'll talk about a lot of documents and stuff involved with the $500 million fraud. He's actually sent me the documents. So, just stuff like that. And it's all over. I mean, everywhere. I've got ex-mayor in Louisiana telling me about election fraud and a whole bunch of other stuff that's going on there in this town. I had a county commissioner.
I have a question about that really quick. Because I actually got a almost strike today for talking about my opinions on election. I ended up getting the strike removed, but do you find it hard to talk on YouTube about certain corruptions because of fear of getting a strike?
I've never had any stories strike like that because of that. I don't really cover a lot of election stuff because I believe that shit's a farce anyway. I thought if elections changed anything, they would outlaw it. So I've always been a firm believer. It's not who votes, but who counts the votes that matters. And obviously, people could say, "Oh, all this stuff just happened," and we're $200 trillion indebted. That's not planned. It's not planned that in the last 100 years, 96 of those years, we borrowed more money than we've taken in.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
to people that can rationally think and say 96 years, so that would be like if my grandfather my father and myself all borrowed more money every year of our life than we made. How can that many people over that many years be that financially inept unless it was part of a bigger plan, part of a
Yeah. Yeah,
bigger situation?
it's hard to see that like it's hard to find that massive scale stuff, but it's nice that you're getting some of the lower end stuff like the mayors and all of that and working your way up. How do you verify the information that you get is accurate?
Well, usually I verify the people that give it to me right off the bat. There could be a lot of disgruntled employees. I have no doubt that in some cases that's the case, but I like to go to these people that are of the issue, right? So here's a perfect example. A contact of mine in Southern Alabama said that there was a major in the Mobile Police Department named Linda Timms, all right, and there were two cops that arrested this guy one night in Mobile, and he had coke and he had money on him. So they arrested him. They took him to jail. The guy just happened to be a friend of the major. So the major came to the cops and told the cops, listen, let this guy go, give him back his money, right? The
Mm-hmm.
cops are like, yo, F that, you know? And
Right.
so they went to their captain, who's a below major, went to their captain, and they had an internal affairs investigation open, right? The major wrote up the captain and the officers. The chief of police came in and squashed the internal affairs investigation, told the two officers if they didn't like working under her, that they will go ahead and, work in a different unit, like patrol unit. So both of those officers quit the Mobile Police Department. Okay.
Okay.
One went to work for the Mobile County Sheriff's Office, and then one went to work for another department. Now, I talked to the one officer that went to work for the Mobile Sheriff's Office. I talked to Linda Thames, okay?
You
And,
did.
oh,
Did you
yeah.
have it on video?
No, I didn't record the phone conversation, but, um, or put it out there, let me say, because I record all my phone calls. It's not video, it's audio. Um, but yeah, I mean, I go to wherever the source is and try to get as much information as I can out of them without giving up sources. You
What
know what
did
I
she
mean?
say?
She made no comment, but I told her I was putting out the story, and if she wanted, to say something, it would be out there, and I'm giving her the opportunity, and I told her, hey, if, this isn't true, you're more than welcome to sue me, and that was about a
Have
year
you
and a half
been
ago.
sued?
No,
So you've never been sued by anyone that you've spoken about on
no,
YouTube? Well, that's fortunate. And you haven't been, have you ever been arrested because of any of like the recording stuff?
not like you would think is in wiretapping, but I have been arrested for like trespassing or, my charge that I'm fighting now for the last 2 years in Georgia is loitering near inmates. So I've been arrested for whatever they could try to throw at me. I've been arrested 4 times. 3 of them have been dismissed, and this will be my fourth one here in Georgia. So we'll see how that goes. But it is
Well,
going to
three of them being
trial.
dismissed is that's a pretty good track record. So,
Yeah.
um, I would love for the chat to add any questions that they want to add as well. So if you have anything, please add it to the chat. Um, so how often do you go into these buildings? Okay.
Um,
Photographs for news purposes may be taken in entrances, lobbies, foyers, corridors, or auditoriums when used for public meetings. You can't get in trouble for doing these things. Yes, very true. Sorry, go ahead.
well, he was talking about Poster 7, but Northchester County News put sticker. I was arrested for placing a sticker on a crosswalk sign on my live stream because I advertise with stickers, little stickers, and they get me for criminal mischief. Now, I don't consider that an auditing arrest because obviously what I did was a crime. Um, I bet it was $50 worth of damage, and they spent thousands and thousands to prosecute me. Like literally held me in jail 9 days, and then wanted to take me to trial over a $50 sticker. That to this day, mind you, okay, because I go by there when I'm up in that area. To this day, they still have not repaired that sign that I oh so damaged.
Yeah,
You
it
know
was
what
such
I
a big deal, and they
Yeah,
charged
oh,
you
yeah,
for
it's terrible.
fixing
They
it.
had
You would think
they
they'd
had
go
to,
about actually fixing it. That's pretty
yeah,
funny.
yeah, but they didn't
That is
fix it
pretty
because I
funny.
really didn't damage it that much, and I didn't damage it at all. I put the sticker on there, and I used to do auto detailing, so I'm a little bit more versed in how to get, stickers off, delicate subjects like
Mm,
Mercedes bumpers and shit. You know what I mean? But they didn't do nothing. The cop went up there and scratched it off, and she scratched like a little bitty piece of a zero off the street sign. It said 90, Highway 90. And there was a little bitty piece of the zero scratched off, but you could still definitely tell it was a freaking zero. You know what I
right.
mean? And they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh no, you damaged it," and I'm like, "Really?"
You're like,
But
oh, is this Highway 9 now? I'm so not sure.
right. But I did the crime, so I took my punishment, and we did a prosecutorial deferment agreement. I handled it pro se. I turned down 2 offers before they came to me with that offer. Um, so my lawyer said I did great.
Wait, if you were
Said,
pro se, how did you have a lawyer? You just had like a
um,
standby?
yeah, I have been advertising for this gentleman and his law firms almost since I began.
Mm.
He's a gentleman out of Tampa. He's retired now, but when I first started, he would handle my criminal cases and my civil cases just for me advertising. And
Cool.
of course, we became friends. So anytime I have any kind of legal information that I need to go over, I always contact him, and he always, gives me the skinny and tries to help me as much as he can.
That's awesome. That's good that you have that relationship. So, Track Golfer wants to know if you can disseminate Poster 7. It is the Postal Service rules and regulations. So that's what they want to know. And then someone else in the chats I saw wanted to ask about the Chile situation. Are you also involved in Chile stuff?
I usually do like a chili cook-off once a year, but I don't really
Okay.
get into it. Like,
You're
I'm
not
not a
into like
fanatic.
Chile de Castro, right?
No, I don't really care for that guy. I don't need a used car, so I don't need a used car salesman. But um, it is what it is. Plus, I have issues with people that call themselves constitutional scholars, but won't tell me one book about the Constitution they've ever read. That's kind of suspicious to me. But again, that's just me. Everybody's free to have their own opinion. But when people say, "Hey, George, what's your favorite law book?" I could say, it's Cooley's General Principles of Constitutional Law, or Zane's Story of Law, or a whole bunch of different books. Or hey, what's your favorite fiction book? I could say, well, it's Stephen King, The Stand, or so it just I love to read. My kids love to read. I got books everywhere in my house. I collect old law and old history books, like hundreds of years old. So
That's really
when
awesome. And is
yeah,
that how you learn most of your understanding of the law through those books?
yeah, I years ago I saw people talking that sovereign citizen crap online. So I wanted to find out more about law. So I've always liked to learn stuff. Before I was in the law, I was in the economics. I've been into psychology. I picked up books on anthropology. Um, I just like to do stuff with my time rather than watch the boob tube, or I don't watch sports or anything like that. So I got a lot of PDFs as well, because I mean, gosh, you can get Google Books has got tons of great books online.
Yeah, that's true.
So
Actually, most of my law books were from online.
yeah.
So that's very true. I
Yeah.
actually had a question about auditing that my producer just sent me. Is there some sort of organizational system among the auditors so that you kind of know what places have been audited? And is it local? Is it federal? Can you tell me about that?
Um, yeah. I mean, there's no way for other people to know where I've been, unless you see my videos. And the
Hmm.
same way goes for a lot of the other guys. Now I know where a lot of the auditors live and areas they work. So for example, I know if I'm going up to South Carolina, Pepperoni Audits is up there, Upstate SC News, Serial Killer Audits is up there, News Now South Carolina is up there. So I know where they are and areas they've worked. But I'll still go by and do their, an area that they've worked or, that they've been by. Because, when we go out and we do these buildings and stuff, we only see a small percentage of the people that work there. We don't see the people that weren't there that day because they were sick or because they were on vacation or because, whatever reason. So, excuse me.
Hmm.
So, you know, people with bad attitudes and people that want to enforce their will on other people, um, they could be there or they could not be there. I've been to places the first time where they were great and nobody bothered me. And I went back there the second time and literally hell broke loose.
Okay.
So, and
Like,
sometimes all
can
it
you give me
takes
an
is,
example of where that happened?
yeah, actually, it was in Newport Richey at the county building there in Newport Richey. Um, we had I don't know, it's probably like 4 or 5 cops come in, and the DMV was in there, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you can't be in there," yada yada yada. And he ended up apologizing to us at the end because a cop, like a lieutenant or a captain, showed up, and he actually knew the law. So he told the officers, "Yeah, they're allowed to be in here. It's public,
Right.
and they're recording." So the cop, came back and he said, "I was sorry," and that was pretty cool. That don't happen a lot. A lot of times when people find out they're wrong, they just turn around and
Yeah.
walk out. And hey, it's so sad. It's like I lost baseball games as a kid. I went by and I shook all the players' hands that whooped my ass. You know what I mean? Like, why you got to be such a baby about it? But
Yeah, yeah, it's hard for people to apologize. So good on that officer for apologizing. It's hard to admit when you're wrong, but it happens. Everybody's human, and so yeah. People are wondering, have you ever been in handcuffs before?
yeah, yeah. I mean, for arrest, they didn't use
Do you
zip
think
ties.
that? Do you think that they're torturous in any manner?
I mean, not so much. I've actually seen some of the older handcuffs, so it looks more torturous back then. But I
That's
mean,
yeah.
yeah, these are things that society has put forth that we want. You know what I mean? And I'm not against society. I'm not an anarchist. I do believe in the most freedom we can have, but I also realize that people aren't willing to do what's necessary because more
Yeah.
than anything, freedom is personal responsibility. And
Mhm.
everybody today wants to put shit up on everybody else. You could just
Mhm.
take the political parties and see that. Because anytime you ask a Democrat who's the problem is, it's the Republican. When you ask the Republican who the problem is, it's the Democrat. Nobody ever says, hey, maybe I'm part of the problem. Nobody says that. It's always the
That's
other guy.
true.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
always the
that's
other guy.
true. Um, so Emergency Education Point wants to know what to do about the monsters behind closed doors. So, like, what can the people in the audience do?
Um, what was that? Hold on.
They want to know. He was wondering what the people in the audience can do to help also expose the corruption that you're exposing. What else can they do to help, like you're helping?
I mean, they can go to their city council meetings. They can, request public records. A lot of the fraud's going to be found through financial records, obviously. So, credit card receipts, credit card records for a lot of these people. We need people digging into the contracts that these cities are engaging with. Deep diving the companies behind these contracts. Is it the mayor's second cousin? You know, we
Right.
have a damn police department, brand new police department building here in Bellevue, Florida. They kicked in an extra $500,000 to make it earthquake proof. All right.
Okay.
We don't have earthquakes.
Right. Yeah, I was just thinking that. I mean, hurricane proof maybe would be nice.
Right. Sinkhole proof. I mean, something that makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah.
Earthquakes? No, we're not California. We don't have those here ever. I mean, maybe once in like, I've lived here, 30 years, maybe once, never. I've never had one, so, but
Well, that's
hey,
very nice.
that's a kickback to somebody's company, right? Charge them,
Mhm.
500,000 to make it earthquake proof. How does even anybody know it's earthquake proof? You know what I mean? Like they could be like, oh yeah, I earthquake proofed it. You betcha. Oh yeah. and then who's inspecting it? The city? Well, that's
Right.
just it's like the mafia.
Yeah, I see. It's too much nepotism, like within the government. Too much, yeah,
Right.
secret handshaking. But so a lot of people might see you reporting people in buildings and assume that you're a sovereign citizen. You're not a sovereign citizen, right? Or a sovereign.
Oh no.
I don't want to.
No.
And you don't agree with that ideology at all.
I do.
I believe they are, you know, at least questioning the system that we've been brought up in. There's definitely not a lot of that going on. There is truth in some of what they say, but the way they go about it and the complexities and all that they make it, to me, it's the damn government feeding disinformation to people.
You think the government is behind sovereign citizens?
Absolutely, I do. You know why?
Very interesting idea. Go ahead.
Because people that think outside the box, okay, people that don't readily just accept what the government says, the government wants to know who those people are. So it'd be a great ideal if I put out some information saying, hey, you could be free from the government. All you have to do is just authenticate your birth certificate by sending it in to whatever the flavor of the month is. Years ago it used to be the Secretary of State of Minnesota, or some other bullshit. And so now you've got people that think outside the box, that aren't just believing the government, and they're telling you who they are. They're giving you a list of who these people are that think that you might be up to something shady, bro. So
but do you think, for instance, that like Ray Epps, for instance, I think have you heard the name?
No.
Okay, well, I think there's sometimes government plants involved in issues. Do you think some of these YouTube sovereign citizens are just like paid government ops?
Absolutely.
Like all enslaved?
I don't know the guy personally.
But like someone like him,
is.
not necessarily him specifically, but one of
Right.
those like YouTube personalities that gets like that cult-like following and says the same 10 things on repeat.
Right. Like LB Bork was a big one years ago that I actually challenged to a debate, and he went after my family, and he wrote the Red Amendment, where he blames everything on the 14th Amendment, and definitely some stuff changed with the 14th Amendment, and some drastic changes. We went from pledging our allegiance to state governments to pledging them to the federal government. So there were big changes there. But I mean, like I tell him, I said, the bottom line is that people that live under a government are always subject to that government. There are no free men. There are no free women, right? There's no such thing as freedom, right? Because you're going to be under that system of government, okay? Because the word government, the word govern, means to be able to punish somebody for not listening to what you say, right? That's to govern, okay? Because if you couldn't punish people for not doing what you say, that would be anarchy.
Do you follow Jordan Maxwell?
I've never heard of him.
Oh, okay, because he makes a lot of these like government, and then he splits it into two words, and he talks about the govern, and he talks about the meant.
I don't know anything about the meant. I mean, that could be a meant.
He thinks govern means like, I forget exactly what he said. It was like control, and then ment means mind, so government means mind control. And so
Yeah,
like a lot of sovereign citizens believe government literally means mind
yeah.
control.
No, you can keep the mint. You can put that in your, your shot glass or whatever. You can, use it for an after dinner mint. I don't care. But the govern part is the important part because again, the government has to have people to govern, and to govern means to make rules, right? And you have to
Mm-hmm.
obey those rules, right? Because if you didn't, it would be anarchy. If anybody could just do whatever they wanted and not listen to anybody, that's anarchy. So
Right.
government means to be able to make rules and to be able to enforce those rules, right? So if you live under a government, doesn't matter if it's communist, doesn't matter if it's socialism, doesn't matter any kind of government. What people fail to realize is that society is set up before government is. Okay. So before there's even a government, there's a society. And in order for a society to work, there's basic rules, right? That's what people talk about as the social contract, right? So
Right.
in society, you have to obey the rules of society. You have to financially support said society if you want to be a part of it. And those are basic rules no matter what type of government you have or what kind of government the society picks to run the society, right? So
Right.
when people came over to America, it wasn't like, bam, government. You know what I mean? It started out as a couple of people and they formed a society. And then, it goes on and on and
Well,
on from there.
America's a little bit
Well,
tricky because
different,
there's the
right,
English government, but yes, I
right,
understand the gist of what you're trying to get at.
right.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, I mean, this is always going to be there. So, the best we can hope to do is to understand the rules that which we live under and try to use those to our advantage in some way, shape, or form. Because basically, that's what you have now. You have what people consider to be the elite, and all they're doing is they're using the laws to help better themselves and their lot in life. Like when I talked about on my live stream, it's the lawyers that run the legislature, it's the lawyers that run judiciary, and 9 times out of 10 it's the lawyers that are running the executive branch.
Do you
So
have
you
any desire to get a law degree?
no, no, I'd rather just enjoy it like I enjoy it now. Like I enjoy reading law books. I don't want to make it to where it's something that I don't like to do anymore, like as if it's a job. But I've been
Mm-hmm.
reading law books for, coming up on 10 years now, and I enjoy it. So, and I enjoy helping myself and, helping people that's closest to me. Um, I can't give legal advice to people I don't know, but I can give legal advice to any friends and family. I can give them all the legal advice they want.
Right.
um, and for the rest, I can just give them legal information. Um, so
Well, okay. So, Emergency Education Point wants to know if you believe that if the American government is legitimate. The Black's Law Library gives themselves their only legitimacy, and that they gave themselves, "We are not a rule of law." Take that comment however you mean it.
I, yeah, I'm baffled there. The American government is legitimate in the fact that they've lied to us and they've gotten us to where we are today. It's legitimate in the fact that they count the votes. So they tell you who wins the elections and who your boss is going to be the next 4 years. Do I think it's a legitimate government as far as the fact that we can never do better? That we've reached the pinnacle of freedoms that men and women living under a government can have? No,
Mm-hmm.
no, no. There's a
Yeah.
lot more that we could have. There's a lot more that we could do, and I believe they're illegitimate in the fact that, like humans throughout history, they're trying to grab up everything they can for themselves and fuck all the rest.
Yeah, I fully understand. Wait, hold on one second. My dog is crying, so I have to grab him. Oh, alrighty. He was making noise and distracting me. So, alright. So, the way that you go about fighting this government corruption that you're referring to is by trying to get cameras in all the buildings. I saw a question earlier about FOIA requests. Have you done a lot of FOIA requests?
I do quite a number of FOIA requests, and we find out stuff through them, mostly through the credit card records and receipts. Of course, I'm not an accountant, so there's not a whole heck of a lot I can do with a lot of the numbers and stuff like that. Um, I read a little bit on contract law. I'm not an expert on contract law, so going over the contracts to me would be an issue. But I'm hoping to educate people that are familiar with those skill sets to help out. Definitely a lot of cities that we go to could use a forensic audit on their books. Um, so, I mean, it is what it is. I'm only one man. I can only do so much, but I mean, what I do is enough for me, uh, and it's enough for the people that support me. I mean, I get emails and stuff and comments and stuff all the time that are thanking me for just helping them learn their rights. I mean, people feel empowered when they have knowledge. Knowledge
Mm-hmm.
empowers people. Um, so I mean, I have this knowledge. I gained it through reading and through other means or whatnot. So I share it, and that's it's just the way it is. So I know a lot of people. I watch the comments over here. I know you got a lot of people that's not for me. There, Keith Hutchins, he hates me.
Okay, so a lot of people in my comments didn't like you, but then you posted a video trying to promo this, and all the comments are like, "We love you, Rogue Nation, but screw that Lauren girl." So it's just so funny that there's no way to appease certain people on YouTube. They pick sides. They think that you're pro somebody or anti somebody, and therefore you're
it's their
good or
beliefs.
bad in their mind. It's just the YouTube spat wars are some of the funniest, most dumb things I've seen in my entire life. And people lose their minds. Not only do people lose their minds, they lose their jobs, they lose relationships, they go crazy over this stuff. They have all these lawsuits, they lose all this money. I have yet to have a YouTube spat turn real life, but it just sounds like a mess and a half. So I do not get that. So
It's people's beliefs, and unfortunately, we're not going to change them. I'm not going to change a person's beliefs. I mean,
I loved having you on. So, anyone in my comments who's mean to you sounds like a meanie. And this person enjoyed having you on, or else they wouldn't have enjoyed the show. So you were a great guest. You helped my channel. If you don't like him, but you like me, that doesn't make sense because he came here, he helped me gain subscribers, he helped me gain watch hours. So you should like him if you like me. And at that note, I think I am going to have to take my dog on a walk soon. So I am going to end this pretty soon. But thank you so much for being here. And if you're not already subbed to Rogue Nation, you should definitely check him out. If for some reason you think he's like one of those sovereign citizen auditors, you should watch one of his videos. He totally changed my mind on the auditing thing. I think you do a great job, and I just really appreciate you coming on and being so forthcoming.
absolutely.
Alrighty. Have a good night, everybody.